What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Lexi J Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Lexi Johnson. This is my husband and co-host, Brett Johnson. Brett, are you familiar with the term rump springer? I don't know. I don't know if it's actually Springer or I think it's Springer. But are you familiar with that?
Is that with the Amish?
Yeah. So I don't even know if this is like a live, like a still practice thing, but the reason that I was introduced to this name is because there was a party in high school from a kid from another town, but he always called it rump springer. But basically, apparently in the Amish community, there's like a week that 18-year-olds are given, and they're allowed to do anything. They're like supposed to go into civilization, like go party, go do whatever that the Amish community, does not forbids. And then it's supposed to give you such good perspective that like you don't want to live that way. You want to come back. And I feel like, in a way, this past week has been rump springer for you and I. And I don't think that we're alone in that. So we're going to talk about getting back on track after your rump springer, because we're coming off of Thanksgiving. And Thanksgiving is just surrounded by delicious food and gluttony and sedentary lifestyle. Like, if you're anything like us, the past couple days, we've had several Thanksgivings from different families. We've also traveled a minimum of 2 hours one direction. So we're traveling back and forth, 4 hours in the car. You're not moving. You're in a tryptophan coma. And I just feel kind of gross, combined with the fact that we moved this past week. So we were also out of routine leading up to Thanksgiving. Didn't have, boots on the ground and a very good routine in place. So this past week has just kind of been bleh for us. And because I know just the nature of this time of year, the weather gets colder, you get a little bit more sedentary. You're less likely to be outside. You're filling up on holiday cookies and all the Thanksgiving food. So you might be feeling a little bit of that, what is the point at this point? But we want to talk about just getting back on track, because we still have a month left of the year. And although a month is a pretty short amount of time in the grand scheme of things, it's not to be just thrown out the window. And a couple days off track, are never going to derail you enough to lose all the progress that you've been working towards. And if you're thinking about just now getting started, I think that it's a worthwhile time right now, because your health is just as valuable, in the dead of winter as it is in swimsuit season. So we feel gross, and I bet you might also. So we're going to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, this time of year in particular, I think the combination of the holidays being super close together and it getting cold, those two things just create disaster as far as the nutrition side of things go.
And the movement. Like,
right.
I get so many more steps in this summer, and I'm an advocate of movement. I'm an advocate of exercise. I like it, but I find myself being so much more sedentary now.
Mm-hmm. And then the comfort foods, comfort foods sound better when it's colder outside. To me anyway, like just desserts and, dense foods.
And they're readily available.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah. So this time of year is just pretty tough. And if you're just beginning on this, on like your fitness and wellness journey, then it's extra hard, because you're already making a transition and trying to create new habits, like sustainable habits. And it's a slippery slope once you stop doing what, the things that you should be doing to create those habits. And we're at the point where we can self-identify, whenever we're not doing what we should be doing. But, and I have full confidence that, I'll just course correct. But for somebody that's just beginning, it's important to keep the big picture in mind. It's no different than if you got off budget. Does it make sense for you just to continue to spend more than what you have just because you spent too much?
That's a really good example.
Yesterday? Like, are you just just because you went in the red, does it mean that you should just go further in the red? Like, that doesn't make sense. But we don't think about it that way when it comes to our diet.
No, we really don't. I've never considered it that way, but that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Like, you would never go over on calorie, or so many times you go over on calories, or you just like overindulge and you're like, well, to hell with it, we might as well go all in.
Right.
And then we'll go get ice cream.
Right. So I mean, yeah, if you don't make a full credit card payment and you have 20% interest on those payments, it's like, well, screw it, might as well go ahead and spend a bunch more and just rack up more debt. Like, it doesn't make sense. It's pretty black and white whenever somebody looks at it from like a financial perspective. But when we look at it from our health, we look at it in a completely different light, which is very strange.
I think that, well, with finances, you're so accustomed to having like more regularity. So like you have a paycheck coming in, you can kind of be like, okay, well, I'll figure that out. I'll make it right in 2 weeks when I get paid or whatever the circumstances are. But with health, we always just feel like we have way more time, like later on.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I'll make up for it later.
Somehow in the future, our schedules are going to be magically cleared. Our kids are not going to have any extracurriculars. Your work schedule is going to be so much easier. All of your workload is going to be much lighter in the future. So we'll just put off all of that later on because it's just easier to be sedentary and eat like an asshole in the meantime. But you're accruing all of the bad habits, and a body in motion, a habit in motion wants to stay in motion, and it goes for positive and negative. So the more you feed into those negative habits, the more the easier it is. And I can already feel that, like, I am craving being back into my normal, because I can feel myself, like, because this week we've overindulged and we haven't gotten our steps in like we normally would. And just from day to day, it's like, it's easier and easier to justify not doing that and just putting off one more day and one more day. And the more you do it, the easier it is that is to, justify in your head, because it becomes a habit, mm-hmm. like anything else.
Yeah. It's kind of an out of sight, out of mind thing. That's the way I view it a little bit. So, and truly, with your health, it is kind of out of sight, out of mind. If you choose to ignore, your problems and not address the things that need addressed, like your blood work's going to suffer. You don't see your blood work if you ignore it. Your arteries are going to start filling up with plaque. You don't see that. You can't see it from the outside, and that's a problem. So you just create this, this mirage and this mask, that you create for yourself, really. And it's a slippery slope.
Yeah. One of our Lexi wellness ladies, she had posted this, and it was super vulnerable and raw. It was just really cool, because she self-identified before she started. She's like, I was complaining all the time. I was in a horrible mood, but it made sense that I could justify being, bitchy to my family and, short to my kids and all of this stuff. Like, I could be in a bad mood if I was not taking care of myself, because then I had reason to. But she was like, so then the more I put that off, the more I could feed into those bad behaviors and, that bad mood. It just became a vicious cycle. And she was like, and I kind of liked, the coolest part was, she was like, I identified that I kind of liked having that out, that, I'm miserable in myself, so I can be miserable and like put that off on other people, and it's just projection. But it was cool that she had identified that, and then she came around and she's been exercising. She's down 20 pounds since, like the past couple months, and it's just really neat to see that evolution. But until you identify that is the problem, and that you're feeding into that problem, quite literally, that you're just going to continue to cycle it, and it's going to feed itself.
Would you consider yourself a more introspective person now, in the lifestyle that you've adopted, or would you have considered yourself more introspective before?
Oh, I'm totally more introspective now.
Yeah, and I think that's important. I think there's something to that, where you start to call yourself out on your bullshit, and you stop ignoring your problems and identifying them and facing them head on.
Yeah, because once you identify that there's ownership in that, there's ownership in the good and the bad. And if you only want to take ownership of the good, then then you're really turning the blind eye. But if you can be like, well, I'm part of the problem, the good part of that is that I can be part of the solution as well. And in order to just, take full responsibility of your good outcomes, you also have to take full responsibility of the outcomes that you're not super proud of, mm-hmm. and see your place in them. Because even if it is someone else's fault, if they have a hand in whatever, negative situation or circumstance you're in, it really doesn't matter. Like, there's nothing you can do about their part in it, but you can take responsibility for yourself. You mm-hmm. can, identify the blame that you're responsible for and do what you can to get out of it. Otherwise, it's like you're just continuing to be in that victim mentality, and what good is it? like, it feels good in the moment to complain, but the complaining doesn't do you any good. And being, lashing out at someone that may have had a hand in that, it doesn't do them any good.
Mm-hmm. That you took the words out of my mouth. Yeah, I think it eliminates the victimhood mentality. It starts to, I mean, everybody's prone to that in some way, shape, or form, but we've both eliminated a lot of that.
Yeah, I
from
mean,
our
like,
life.
and it's knee jerk. Like, everybody wants to
Feel bad for themselves.
Yeah, and you don't want to be like, nobody wants to take blame,
mm-hmm.
because that sucks. But the sooner you do, the sooner you get out of that circumstance that that you're so desperately, complaining about all the time.
Right, because it feels a lot better to be able to say that it was not your fault. It feels a lot better to be able to place the blame on something or someone else.
Right. But if you're placing the blame elsewhere and by some, miracle you get out of that circumstance, you want to be the one that takes the credit and the responsibility and the ownership over that triumphant, success. So
mm-hmm.
in order to, have a hand in the success, you also need to identify your part in that failure or that struggle.
And there likely won't be a success without identifying the failures.
Yeah, that feels way better than, as good as it feels to complain and bitch and moan about whatever circumstance you're in, it feels 10 times better to tell the story and be like, I was in this circumstance, but you know what? I got out of it because I just owned up to my stuff and I did what needed to be done.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's the holiday season in a nutshell, because you have to own up to your BS and self-identify where, you're lacking. And it's no mystery why it's harder this time of year. We've already discussed the main points of why it's harder to stay on track this time of year. But being able, I always consider it a liberating thing to be able to identify your opportunity and, opportunity to get better, and then being able to execute on it and prove to yourself that you can do the right things and that you'll get to experience the blissfulness of actually, doing those good things and seeing the positive outcomes.
Yeah, I'm really eager. Like, personally, I'm eager to get back into the swing of things this week and just get more on track. And we're recording this over the weekend, where you'll hear this on a Wednesday. But by Wednesday, I'm going to be rolling. I'm going to be locked and loaded back into my routine. And it's nothing extreme. It's literally just the basics. But the basics are the basics for a reason. So if you're listening to this and you're like, haven't got started yet, or maybe you're trying to dig yourself out of a hole, you don't need to go balls to the walls and crash at the end of the week. Like, it is sustainable. It's something that you can do every day. It just is. It's just that. It's about what you do consistently. So big deal that we overate, or that you weren't super active this week or this weekend or that holiday, whatever. Course correct. There has yet to be something that I've seen that course correction can't fix. And it's just about getting back to the basics, getting back to those things and those principles that serve you best, because it's a craveable feeling. Once you've felt that way before, you want to get back to it, because it feels awesome to wake up and genuinely feel energetic and feel good and feel like you have some control throughout your day, because there's so much that goes on that you really have no hand in. So to be able to say, I exercised the control that I have in my life, which is my actions, how I'm moving my body, how I'm feeding myself, and then my attitude. That's the best we can do. Mm-hmm. And then we'll play the other cards as they're laid. But otherwise, you're really just throwing yourselves to the wolves, and you're not giving yourself a fighting chance to feel good mentally or physically. And I can tell you, it's so transformative once you just take hold of that and string along enough of those days where it's a craveable feeling. But those first few days are going to be uncomfortable, because it's different and it's new and it's something that you've never done before, likely. And you are exerting yourself a little bit more, but it pays dividends. It's the best return on investment.
Yep.
I think that you have to understand also, the last thing that I really want to touch on, because I think that it's pretty straightforward, is that you get so much media and so much advertising this time of year that pushes you to, live that lifestyle. We have to understand that, like, media and advertising it is cyclical. So this time of year, it's pushing those comfort foods and that, sitting on the couch and watching movies all day and all that lifestyle, which it's so cozy. You're up by the tree and like it's meant to be that way. And then January 1st, media is going to tell you that you're fat, you're out of shape, you need to get moving, that you're so far behind. All of your friends are in shape. What are you doing still sitting on the couch? Like, it's seasonal in that way, and it's meant to make you feel that way, to put that pressure on you. So understand that your health is just as valuable right now. Your health markers do not take a winter vacation. They don't care if it's the holiday. They don't care if it's whatever. And I'm going to speak for your family right now, but your family wants you around for those holidays 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And if that means that you have to go on a walk Christmas, on Thanksgiving, on a day that you don't want to when it's cold and rainy or whatever, I think that that's a worthwhile trade-off, to be there, be present, and be an active participant in your family's lives for holidays to come.
Yeah, the big picture is really what you have to keep in mind. Being able to just take a step back, look at it from a 30,000 foot point of view, and look down and see, okay, well, does it make sense for me to go ahead and just call it quits for the rest of the year and then just pick it up on January 1? Or should I actually just self-correct here, identify that I took a couple days off, so to speak, and just get back on that wagon?
I think that and we have a lot of moms and dads that are listening right now, and because the holiday season has so much pressure on you guys to do all of the things for your kids, and we were talking about this on our way home this morning, like there's so many demands on parents around Christmas time and, making that the most magical time for your kids, that I understand it probably feels a little selfish to take that time to go on a walk, to get a workout in, to, prep your food or whatever it is that you're justifying like cannot be done right now because you have to pour into them. So a few years ago, and if you guys are new here, please go watch a video I have pinned to my Instagram and it'll give you a little bit more feedback. But my dad has lost over 120 pounds. He had 4 heart attacks before that. So it's a really big deal to me that parents take care of themselves, because I've been in a position where I've seen my dad not take care of himself. I've seen him super helpless on a hospital bed, and it sucks. It sucks so bad, and it's so scary to see someone that you love and admire and look up to so much that feels bulletproof, and they're not. And then I've seen that confidence transform. And a few years ago, it was the first year I had Lexi J Wellness, and I had my whole family record a workout. It was really cool. We all recorded a workout on Christmas Day, and we did it together. And it sounds kind of silly and like, okay, why would you take out 30 minutes of your day on Christmas? Like, of all days, you can't skip a Christmas morning to work out, or you can't skip Christmas morning working out, whatever. But that was a really, really cool thing for all of us to see, that my dad participated in that workout when in past it would have literally been laughable. Like, if I would have asked him to go on a walk on past Christmases on any day, it could have been the perfect sunny and 75, and he would have laughed. Like, we all would have thought that was a joke. But the fact that he did a workout with us on Christmas, where the day when you're supposed to, be surrounded by loved ones and soaking up those memories, that was a core memory for all of us, I feel like, because that was something that just would never have happened. And it wouldn't have happened if he wouldn't have taken control of his health and made that change. So speaking as someone that has, been on the receiving end of a parent taking care of themselves and then having that, transformational journey, it is the best gift you could possibly give your kids.
Amen. Yeah, no, Greg is a testament, though, to how quickly somebody can make a lifestyle change and that just be the norm, because like the norm shifted so quickly. In retrospect, I don't even remember this isn't a mean way of saying this. This is something that the family identifies him as. I don't even remember Fat Greg. Like, Fat Greg is what he refers to himself as. The family refers to his prior self as. But I don't even really remember that. Whenever I see a picture of him now,
which is so weird because he was that way at our wedding.
Right. I don't even recognize him. It's like, holy cow. Like, now it's just such a stark difference. But it's crazy to me how quickly the norm has shifted. And I think that that's just a testament to how quickly you can make your life completely transform, and you can create a totally new norm for yourself just like that.
Acting as if you are that person.
Yeah.
Like,
and then eventually you are that person. You take form of that thing that you're creating, but you have to take that first step forward and then continue to walk that path long enough to really see the fruits of your labor. And it's been an awesome thing to see Greg do, and kudos to him for sticking with it as long as well, not just as long as he has. It's just it's his new lifestyle. He's not going back, and it's
I'm
really
a lot more
really really
bold
cool.
Now he has no choice to go back. I'll be on him. He used to, like, he told me, and I know this for a fact, he's a fireman, so he would work 24 hours on, and he said that, like, on his way to work he would stop by McDonald's and get breakfast. You know, if they had downtime, he would run to McDonald's and get lunch. Like, he would have McDonald's multiple times a day. Then they would have whatever they cooked at the firehouse for dinner. And a lot of times they cook like the Southern grandmas in the firehouse. Like, it is deep fried, lots of butter and grease. And it just, like, it did him no favors, but that was just the norm. And he didn't see anything wrong with that. And now, you know, he'll prep his food, or he'll do a better job. Like, they'll go on grocery trips as a department or as a shift, and they'll just make better decisions. And it really starts with one person just changing that culture, changing the environment. And it's kind of cool. He's really big on our friend Damon West, the coffee bean message. That really hit home for Dad. And the gist of it is essentially, you know, if you put an egg in water, it hardens. If you put a carrot in water, it softens. But if you put a coffee bean in water, it changes the environment. So you have options when you're in a culture or a community that doesn't necessarily, you know, embody the values or the habits that you want. You have the option to, you know, infect that environment and really make it your own. But you have to be steadfast in your own. You have to be, you know, strong in your convictions and what you want, because if you waver side to side, then you're going to seem flaky.
Mm-hmm. You got to walk the walk.
Yeah.
And Greg has.
And a lot of times it takes a lot longer than you want. You have to lead by example for a lot longer than you feel is necessary. And you're like, come on now, I've shown you guys, it's been a month, I've continued to do this, and it'll take a little bit longer, but it's worthwhile. Yeah,
it's just a side effect. Like, it's if it's in action long enough, people watch you do it long enough, and they see you transform, and not just in one way physically, but they see you transform mentally and spiritually and just overall, you know, your demeanor. And then they're benefited by you changing your life, because you're better to them. You interact more positively with them. You bring more to the table for them. Right. And they want to embody that themselves. So it's just kind of it's a domino effect, really. But yeah, it's a lifestyle change. And if you're just getting started on it, or if if you're still one of those people that's trying to adopt the habits that you'd like to see as a standard practice in your life, then just stay on course. And there's going to be deviations along the way. There's going to be road bumps along the way. Just take them in stride and get back on course whenever you falter. Yep. It's worthwhile. It's not perfect. There's nobody that's ever said that it's going to be perfect. It's not going to be seamless, but it is worth it. Yeah, absolutely. That makes me want to, get back on track even more. Just talking about it, knowing that we've done this time and time again, and we have these side steps sometimes, and it's just a matter of course correction. So I'm excited about that. I'm so ready just to feel better. Same. I just feel blah. Yeah, and really it's just 2 days. Let's get back on it. Yeah. All right, guys, we'll talk to you next week. Until then, if you have any questions or any topics that you want us to cover, you can always email those to our email. pod@lexijwellness.com. But until then, we'll talk to you later.